2 points. The long-term capital management. Two Nobel laureates, and they
Right.
ruined it, right?
Right. That was Scholes.
Yeah.
Black-Scholes, who is behind the Black-Scholes model.
And the model itself was very basic and rudimentary. And
Right. The model itself is actually it is for the option pricing. It's a pricing model. But most of these crises happen because of leverage, and it's excess loans. And when you cannot pay back a loan, they call it an economic crisis. But the reality is, it is a banking crisis. And they never bail out the small depositors. They bail out the bankers themselves. In reality, they should allow the banks to collapse, and the depositor should be bailed out, because that's the rule. That's what the insurance scheme is about. They claim, the FDIC insurance in US claims that the deposits up to a certain amount, they are guaranteed.
Second comment about the gold. The gold bond is also a whole idea of Western construct or Christian construct to take gold from Hindus and keep it centralized so that they can just take it away like they did in Egypt or Libya.
And in 1930s from India.
So the Hindu should never let their gold be with government. It should only be with their households.
So not only in 1930s, they did this in 1854. They took away the gold from us, and then when we saved in silver, they took away the silver from us in 1890s. That's correct.
So I have 2-3 questions. And first is, when we see this, when we say that, as in, these are the global economic theories which are consistently are working against Indians and Indian, looting India continuously. So whenever we discuss this, I'm part of, lot of financial market professionals, and I work in that industry. But we don't have alternative, as an alternative theory to propose what could be successful other alternative model to showcase them, or maybe to other countries. Do we have it?
Yes, we have it.
Okay.
It's the Swadeshi model.
Yeah. And second is, how do we make a theory out of it so that we propose it?
Okay.
And third question is, when you say remove the gold controls, so what we have seen is over the last 10-15 years, consistently our gasoline, petrol consumption, oil demand is increasing. And when we look at the balance of payment, oil and gold imports are the big drag which drain our forex. And most of we are such a lucky country, we have so much of surpluses in agriculture, in other commodities, whatever we require, right, except for coal. But we import a lot of oil, import a lot of electronics and gold.
Right.
So that is what the thought process to put tax on importing the gold. So right, when you say remove gold control, what do you mean by that?
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
So the first one is about your economic theories affecting India, and you have to know that the effect on India is intentional, because their systems, they know it'll collapse. Their theories, they keep writing whether the cycles, they even call it cycles. So they are acknowledging that their system is flawed. So it is going to collapse, and they are looking at solutions. And one of the solutions is, why not India? India has a huge population. Why don't we transfer our pain to India? So this is exactly what they do. And so it's intentional. It's been intentional for 300 years. Now you talk of a theory. We don't need to theorize this. In practice, we have a Swadeshi system. This obsession with an economic theory and building a theory, it's not going to work. No theory is going to work. Like, you cannot create some rules and say the world will behave according to some rules. You can try to look at the world and you can capture it, but you cannot build a system, a theory, and hope the world will follow. That is exactly the reason it collapses, and along with the centralization. And our method has always been a decentralized method. So we have to go back there. We have to go back to a decentralized method, and that is the way to do it. And in terms of gold, what I mean is not just remove the taxation, it should also be allowed as a currency. And the reason for this is, the reason that Indians go for importing gold is because we don't trust the Indian currency. They keep printing it, it keeps depreciating. That is the reality. And if you cannot afford a large piece of land, at least you can afford a small piece of gold. So the problem is not with gold. The problem is, why is it that the Indian currency keeps depreciating? Because we follow the Western economic models. That is the reason. And other countries like Switzerland have tried, like tying it to gold. It's worked wonderfully for them. But they've taken it out now, and then they went back to it. So they took it out because they wanted to join the European Union. So that's going on as well. It's not working out. It was better with gold for them. So India can do that too. And our wisdom is that we naturally go for it. That gives more stability. So the stability in the system, I think, is more important than the so-called growth. And rather than get easy money and build a business and then quickly file for bankruptcy, why not put in hard work and build a business that is stable?
How do you relate gold monetization scheme, taking away gold from institutions, temples, people, in all this context?
Yeah.
How do you see it?
Yeah, it's wrong. First of all, the temples being managed by the government is wrong. So right there is a problem. Under fair circumstances, temples will be managed by Hindus, and Hindus will be using this for charity work. The temple itself will have a place where they encourage fine arts. They will have a place for feeding the poor. And they will have educational institutions and hospitals. So that's not being done. Instead, they just hoard this and they grab it. But you are specifically talking of Padmanabha Swami temple, I guess, and that's a special case, because that's one case. But in general, if you look at the general case, the government is not supposed to be taking it and issuing paper. They should not do that. The government should not be interfering in Hindu temples.
My question is, you said, they don't want free people, they don't want independent, strong people, and they want to control Indian people. What I see, what I traveled to Kerala and across the country in last few years, something silently is happening. That our poor people are being controlled through, like simple drugs like liquors and your tambaku, and simple things are actually making us empty.
Right.
And rich people are equally drowned in drugs like Punjab,
Right.
rich places, and Gadwal, where people came for defense forces. And across the country, something silently is happening where our food habits unquestionably are emptied. We are using pressure cookers and we are using fast, quick ovens and all these things.
Right.
And so you have actually gone to the depth in economic per se, but we need strong security things, like Mossad and CIA and KGB. We need to do some resolute action, till the time you don't have fear, you can enter and play with me, with my house.
Right.
And if you have fear that you can get killed for doing something sinister in my house,
Right.
then if you come for business, then you come for business. You are welcome as a guest.
Right.
So I think everything is very interrelated, and something sinister is going on across the country, because we say we are Hindus and we are demanding our rights and all that.
Right.
But in practice, we are muftis and padris.
Right.
We are ashamed of our roots, and we don't want to practice our dress and all these things which are related to prana.
Correct.
And urdhvagati and strength.
Right.
We are not practicing, which makes us strong.
Right. And I'll add a couple of points to that as well. What
please.
you said.
You're welcome. I know you have sure certain things to add.
Right. So one is the liquor, you said. The liquor being sold by Tamil Nadu government or whatever, it should not even be there. It should not even be allowed. And the reason, and one argument we could make from the legal side is the directive principles of the Constitution. They say that we will move away from liquor. And so the government is consciously going against what is in the directive principles, because knowing well that it cannot be challenged legally, there's a clause out there where directive principles cannot be challenged. But whatever it is, they are going against it. The other is, you said you mentioned they want to control Indian people. That is correct.
Human capital is being degraded.
Right, but it's also true in the US. They already control the US population. Like 47% of US is on welfare. And they want it like that because tomorrow they don't want a revolution. So the other, without bribing a part of the population to be their reserve army, there will be a revolution in the US. But now they are all content, their bellies are full, and the other person makes millions of dollars. One point I have to make is about the RBI. One possible solution for RBI, rather than talk about whether they should be autonomous or not, why not just abolish the RBI and put the interest rates back in the hands of money lenders? Let them decide it. We don't need one single interest rate, which is centralized way of thinking. And RBI itself came from the imperialists.
The whole idea of rate of interest and the process of determination of rate of interest. We have been constantly opposing the why RBI has been deliberately trying to keep the rate of interest high. In fact, I am with you on this issue that rate of interest, if there is no central bank, the rate of interest can be left onto the market forces for the local people to decide. But so far as the RBI deliberately trying to keep the rate of interest high and trying to dampen the investment climate in the country, so that is also a bad idea. In fact, there is no reason why they should keep it high. In fact, all these years, all the estimations by the RBI and Monetary Policy Committee have always been going wrong.
Right.
Every time they say that next time the inflation can be higher, but every time the rate of inflation is kept high, is low.
It's one direction too.
So,
and the same point I mentioned that Mahathir Mohamad asked the same question. Why are you raising interest rates for us, but when the Western countries have a bad economy, you lower it?
Question here on just completely disbanding the RBI. It seems completely counterintuitive because we've all grown up on movies which actually depict the extortionist moneylender, who
Right.
basically then enslaves people, and then there is. So, I mean, it just seems completely counterintuitive. That's the first part of it, if you can elaborate and help there. And the second is that, I'm not criticizing, I'm saying that the ideas are great. How do you transition at all from where we are to, maybe another talk some other time, but if you could actually maybe talk for a few minutes about how does any nation as vast as India and with entrenched in the current economic systems transit to a Swadeshi?
Now it's great you asked this question because I wanted to mention this point as well. The reason for this thought process normally is because we think of the money lender as someone who is brutal and who goes and beats up and gets the money back, but that is really a law and order problem. That is not the rate of interest, how you determine the rate of interest. And they know the local conditions, so they do have some interest rate, and we need to figure out how to prevent that kind of stuff. That said, isn't RBI raising the interest rates also a form of extortion? Because the equilibrium rate is lower, which is why they artificially raise it. That's also a form of extortion. And one other thing, we are grown up on RBI, you said, but it's been around only since 1935. It's been around for what, 84 years? And our civilization is thousands of years old. It survived without an RBI.
Yeah, so the theories that you talked about, most of them have originated in India. Like I reviewed a book by Balbir Sihag just recently, and he talked about how chapters of the Arthashastra found themselves in Adam Smith's work, like the four corners of taxation, how taxation should be, and like identifying land, capital, and labor as the three sources of wealth, and also how monopolies are bad. So these kind of things have landed in Adam Smith's work, and they look like copies of Arthashastra. So he thinks that a copy of Arthashastra went to Britain where it was copied, and obviously there was no reference because Adam Smith used to burn his works. And then again, you talked about Keynes. Keynes worked in India office.
I had mentioned that.
Yeah. So, and there are instances in India where of Keynesian spending, like the Nawab of Oudh used to build Imambara in the day, and at night he used to pay for them to destroy it. And there are also local instances, like if there is a failure of monsoons, people used to give weddings of animals like frogs and all. But this created a local demand because if you conduct a wedding, people of various castes need to be involved for various vocations.
Right.
But this was done very decentralized way, and
Right.
Keynes just put it in the hands of the state. And because state
Well,
is
that's
very
also a flawed way. What he did was to transfer wealth from India to
Exactly.
them and called it a theory. It's not really a theory. It's a theory of how to transfer wealth from India
exactly.
to
And
UK.
also, if I understand correctly, in Protestant theology, state is very sacrosanct because the whole Church of England, the governor is the king, and I mean, it is based on the model of Israel where the king is everything.
Right.
So the state-centric model, I think. And I think some parts were taken from India and just superimposed on, along with the centralized state.
Right. Absolutely. The Abrahamic religions are centralized.
Wait a minute. I think you should write on it because this is very
The
interesting.
Abrahamic religions are centralized. So that's correct. Even the topic of economics is the centralization of ideas and claiming that we are experts at it.
एज ऑफ आइडिया इंश्योरेंस बेस्ड हेल्थ केयर सिस्टम ये हमारे को सूट नहीं करता.
Correct.
हाँ, दिस इज़ वेस्टर्न आइडिया. बट एज ऑफ नाउ हम अपने 50 करोड़ लोगों को, जिनके लिए हमारे को 50 लाख करोड़ रुपया जुड़ता है, वो तो हमारे पास नहीं है. तो इसलिए एज ऑफ नाउ हम अपने 28 करोड़ BPL लोगों का या LIG के बाकी लोगों का, इन 50 करोड़ लोगों को हेल्थ तो प्रोवाइड करना है हमारे को.
Right.
तो देन व्हाट इज द अनदर वे आउट? यानी आयुष्मान योजना,
Yes.
whether you are thinking it is a necessity, basically we are against the principle of this insurance based healthcare.
Right.
But even now, what is our क्या नाम है अभी solution as of now क्या है?
Yes, I can tell you the answer to this. If you look at the total expenditure from the government paid to the insurance company will charge you the total cost of healthcare plus administrative costs plus their profit. So if you get rid of the insurance and directly deal with the patients yourself and socialize that, you at least get rid of the administrative cost and the profit and loss. The profit, not loss, I mean the profit of the insurance company, and it's cheaper to get rid of insurance and directly give them the health care rather than health care insurance. Because the premium will be priced in such a manner that the insurance company is not going to take a loss. So it is cheaper to actually deal with it without the middleman.
My question is with regard to cryptocurrency. So right now what we're saying is the state control. But anyway, the growth of cryptocurrencies worldwide, and it's growing and it's
Right.
becoming a huge big thing, bitcoins, and that's actually fighting against this, if I'm not wrong, against the state control. Okay, why should
Right.
the state have the
Right.
monopoly?
Right.
So what is your view on that? Do you think that is compatible with Indian system? If we get into this model, would something like a cryptocurrency or a bitcoins or something work
Okay.
as an state?
The first time I heard of Bitcoin, it was $4 per Bitcoin, I think 2010 or 2011. And what you say is absolutely right, that it is seen as a fight against the state control. But is that really true? Because we don't know that. And the other thing is, it's not money. Bitcoin is not money. Your hard disk can crash and it's gone. The definition of money is it has to be durable, which is why we have gold. You cannot have iron pieces. It rusts and it goes away. So you have gold. Similarly, Bitcoin, it's also, the other thing is it's controlled actually, because electricity and networks are controlled by the government anyway. So it is not a fight against the government, no matter how it is presented as. And I think the other dangerous part about it is that it's a precursor to a cashless currency system. So the cashless currency system is when they can pull the plug and control the people. So any system that has a few people controlling the entire population, I think we have to oppose.
Just yesterday that now Facebook is proposing to roll out
Right.
cryptocurrency next year.
Yes, Facebook is part of the establishment. So if you look at the political power structure of US, it has the judiciary, it has the legislative branch, executive branch. That's what they tell us. But then it also has some non-profit foundations. It has Facebook. It has some banks, and it has the universities. This is the entire power structure of the United States. So we have to be careful. If anything comes from Mark Zuckerberg, we have to be very careful about that too.
And so you said that you take the insurance companies out and Ayushman Bharat would help deliver healthcare directly to. But with that comes all the inefficiency of the government, which is why we have pathetic hospitals in India. So, I mean, right now, Ayushman Bharat is enabling people to, a person who earns 20,000 rupees a month, go to Fortis Hospital and get insurance for up to 5 lakhs. I'm sorry, not able to.
No,
get all
I
this.
do agree. We have faced the worst of the inefficiencies, especially under the Nehruvian system. So it has made a deep impact on us, and we are biased against a government system. But government too will catch up. Even the private sector used to be bad. It has become very professional. Government too is catching up. And if you look at the government hospitals in the United States, nobody complains. Nobody complains about it. There's no reason that we cannot be at that level. So of course it's an expenditure, but the insurance base, the moment you start underwriting insurance, the cost is going to go up. This is the problem, because everyone is under the impression that you have insurance, you're just paying a fraction of it. And they are going to raise the cost to whatever they want. Then this is exactly what happened in the US as well. Up to 1973, you could go pay $20, meet a doctor and get treated. So 1973, they had this insurance law. And once insurance came in, it's no longer affordable. So as soon as it came in, people still paid $20 to meet a doctor, but that was the copay. In addition, there was the insurance company's payments to the doctors. The doctors raised the price as well, because after all, who is paying? It's the insurance company. And then the premiums get priced accordingly. So this is going to happen. As soon as insurance comes in, it's going to blow up. The price is going to blow up. And without that, at least the doctors, you meet them at home, they compete with each other, and there is a healthy commerce there.
The moment this Ayushman Bharat scheme was announced in the Parliament in the budget 2019, we immediately made it very clear that this should not be based on the insurance model.
Very good.
And based on our suggestions, the government has taken cognizance of that objection, and now it is not insurance based, it's a trust based model.
Okay.
So in most of the states which are BJP ruled states, they have followed trust model, and in other states also this thing is going to change. So it is no longer based on the insurance companies, and we should keep on pressurizing the government. In fact, there are some elements in the government, those who are trying to make it more insurance based, but actually it is now the trust-based model.
One feedback I have for that point is that I noticed the previous Delhi elections, BJP promised insurance, and India now allows 51% insurance as well. So 51% control for foreign insurance, and the BJP promised in Delhi elections that we will have health insurance. So that is something we have to be careful about.
My question is, what do you think about the Austrian School of Economics, like the theories coming from the Austrian School of Economics? There's a lot of decentralization and talks about that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, they're good, but we are ahead of them. I think we have to take pride that we are ahead of them. Even Friedrich Hayek's claim that the road to serfdom is paved with good intentions, that is based on a statement made by a 19th century British person who saw the condition. He was posted in Ceylon, which is now Sri Lanka. He made exactly the same statement because they had seen what had happened in India. And between Hayek and the Indians, Hayek was opposed to gold. He was for the IMF basket of currencies, and 30 years later he realized what's happening, or 25 years later, and then he started supporting gold. So he only learnt it the hard way, and we as Hindus and Indians have it as inherent wisdom in us.
So here I have a question that why did that Bretton Woods agreement happen and then US also detached their currency from gold? Because gold as a currency also has it is not infinite source.
Right.
It's a definite source. We don't find that much of gold mines in India. How much gold you can just import and use it as a backing for currency.
Right, because their system,
Definite source.
because their system is designed to collapse. So so from 1945 to 1970 or 71, what happened is they went into so much debt, it was depreciating. Then France claimed that we want our gold back, we don't want US dollars. That created a crisis. Other countries started demanding, so they pulled it from gold. So it's a bait and switch, really, in a sense that they have not kept their promise. All their economic systems are designed to collapse.
This is in the context of health insurance. Okay, so it is good to talk about decentralization and so on because you can adapt it to local conditions, etc. But the question becomes, how scalable is that, especially for a large country like India? How scalable would that model be, and how many customizations would we have to do? That is a question that needs serious consideration.
So the health insurance was not from the perspective of decentralization. The health insurance was from the perspective of putting the people dependent on the bankers and the insurance companies. And that is the perspective here, that the insurance companies want the price of healthcare to be high so that you buy insurance. They don't want it to be low. And if they did not exist, it will be affordable. Doctors will make it affordable. No one is going to keep it out of reach. They will keep it affordable. That's how it's been. We go to the doctors' homes and we give money and we get treated. That will disappear completely with the insurance companies. It's their motive. It's their motive that we need to be careful about. And we have the example of United States. Okay, thank you.